Hello, everyone, and good morning to you. Happy New Week to everybody in the house. If you can hear me clearly and can see my screen, kindly type in hi in the comment section so that we can get this session started. Okay, good morning, Carrie. Thank you for that confirmation. All right, 7301, good morning to you. All right, Ashitaka, good morning. Thank you for that confirmation. Fanado, good morning. How are you doing, Fanado? All right. Okay, 239, good morning. Thank you. So let's get the session started. Um, I want to welcome you to yet another promising session of Extra Speed Live, hosted by my humble self, Sheriff Dara Mola. In the next 1 hour, I will be taking you on a trading journey where we shall be evaluating the financial market using technical parameters to identify trading opportunities lining up for us this week. This is the first day of the week, and what we normally do on the first day of the week is we first of all look at the commodities, that is the US oil and then the US tech, after which we are going to be going through random pairs to look out for trading opportunities this week. We're going to look for setups. We project our expectations and we do follow-up details on this pair as the week goes by. So without further ado, let's dive into the chart and let's see what is happening here. So the first pair we are going to be looking at today is the US oil, and what do we have here on the chart? Well, I'm already on a trade here on the US oil anyways, but the first thing I want to be doing here is to scale up to the daily time frame, and let's see what we have on the daily time frame, after which we are going to be making a decision on this one. So right on the daily time frame, remember we have been monitoring this commodity for quite a while now, and the daily time frame has been giving us a bullish momentum. As we can see, we were able to connect the series of higher lows here to give us the resultant bullish trend line. And since the beginning of the week now, we saw the breakdown of that structure. So following the breakdown of the bullish trend line here, that gives us a clue into the selling momentum that is likely going to be coming in and what happened afterwards. We saw after the breakdown of that bullish trend line here during the later part of August stroke the first week of September, we saw the breakdown of that structure. Price climbed back to do a retest of the structure, which was followed with multiple rejection of that level, and then we saw price going to the downside from there, giving us a clue of a trend continuation to the downside. So I'm of the opinion that price is likely going to be going as far as the resistant level of this bearish trend line we identify here. So let's see how we intend to trade this commodity and the new week. So the next thing we did here is to scale down to the 4 hours time frame, and on the 4 hours time frame, what do we have here? Now on the 4 hours time frame, the first thing I was able to observe here is this descending channel. Remember, we saw the breakdown of the structure here. We saw the breakdown of the structure of this bullish trend line. Then we saw a retest of this bullish trend line here, confirming a trend continuation to the downside. And what we also observe is that price has been caught within a descending channel. So we saw this descending channel here. We saw price respects this descending channel, respects the support, the resistance level, and it appears price is going to the downside. So what I'm looking forward to is a take profit target right around the $78 or the $77 area during this week. And if we have price respect that area, then we will be looking forward to probably price going to the upside. And if price breaks down, then a retest of structure is likely going to be pushing price to the downside. So with this information we have here on the 4 hours time frame, the next thing we'll do is to scale down to a much lower time frame where we want to be looking out for trading opportunities. But before we do that, there is a major key level here at the $87 mark. As you can see, if we look at the structure here and looking at our price action has been respecting this level since the early days of the month of August, we can see that this level has been a major determinant of price action. We can see how this level has been a support zone for participants in this market through the month of August. Then the first day of the month of September, we saw it as a support level before the breakdown of that structure happened. But price came back a little into the high side, break back above that level, but was met with stiff resistance by the sellers as price respects that resistant level of the descending channel to push price right back below the key level at the $87 mark. And we have seen our price has formed an indecision around here with a rejection of that area to continue to go to the downside. So with this information we have now, we want to scale down to the 1 hour time frame where we want to be looking out for trading opportunities. So right now on the 1 hour time frame, the first thing you're going to be observing here is following this impulsive move to the downside. The first thing we will observe is that price has been caught within a consolidation phase after testing the $84.50 area. We saw our price was caught within this channel. I think during the later part of last week trading session, we saw our price was caught within this channel, and it appears during the early hours of today, we saw the same thing happen before we saw the final breakdown of this trend line here. So with the current structure we have here, and from a technical standpoint, we have a bearish rectangular pattern, and that is something like this. You see, we had this impulsive move. Hold on. So we had this impulse leg, this bearish impulse leg to the downside here, and then we saw this rectangular pattern which I've identified here with the red rectangle here. So we have this bearish trend line, and from a technical standpoint, this bearish trend line is a trend continuation pattern. That is one, and the only way we would like to trade this is to see that the price gives us a signal of a trend continuation, and the trend continuation will only happen if we have an outright breakdown of that structure. So in the early hours of today, we've already witnessed a breakdown of the structure, and one thing we want to be looking forward to is a possible retest of structure to give us a confirmation that we want to be going to the downside. And now that we have the signal, let's see if price is going to come back to do a retest of this support level. So we want to see price come back into the support level to give us a confirmation of a trend continuation to the downside, or there is a likelihood that price could go as far as retesting that trend line here, where we look out for patterns on lower time frame to join the decline. So what I'm simply saying here at this point on the market is that if you had missed this move right from this point at the $85.20 area, then the only thing we want to be doing here is to remain patient to wait for price action to give us that confirmation, which I've said is likely going to come in the form of a retest of this level at the $84.50 area, or probably the bullish trend line here. But the most important thing we want to be looking forward to, either at this point or this point, is a reversal pattern or multiple rejection of this level to join the decline to the downside. Now, if that happens as we have projected here, where will our take profit target be? Well, what I want to be looking forward to, remember we had this descending channel we identified on the daily time frame where this level here, allow me to make this a tick line, okay, where this one is the bearish trend line we identified on the daily time frame. So we want to see how price is going to relate with this zone here, that is the support level of this descending channel here. I want to see how price is going to relate to that level. Is price going to reject that level in such a way that we have it to respect that channel one more time right back to the upside, or we're going to be having a breakdown of that structure where a retest should be giving us further confirmation of joining the decline? So we don't want to be too over ambitious on this one. So let's place our take profit target right around the $80 area and the $78 area going forward. So this is what we are going to be looking forward to on the US oil. If you have any questions in that regard, feel free to drop your inquiry in the comment section, and I will be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds to read through the charts to see if there are any questions in that regard. Okay, Miss Ko Musa, good morning to you. All right. Donald 2021 from Ethiopia, how are you doing? Hey, 359, good morning. Glad to have you around. How are you doing? I trust you had a wonderful weekend. 413, good morning. 609, good morning. All right. So, okay. So let's move on to the next pair in the absence of no questions. I want to assume that my explanation was quite understandable. So let's move on to the next pair. The next pair we are going to be looking at is the US tech. So what do we have on the US tech? The first thing we do is let's scale up to the higher time frame so that we can have an holistic perspective of what our expectation is likely going to be during this week. So now going back to the daily time frame here, we can see that from a long-term perspective, hold on a second, let's go to the one weekly time frame first. I think I identified a bullish trend line on the weekly time frame. So yes, on the weekly time frame, and if we go to as far as 2016, I was able to identify a bullish trend line here after connecting the series of higher lows, as you can see on your screen. So after connecting these points together, we were able to have this resultant bullish trend line that we shall be using to guide our action in the nearest future. So after identifying that bullish trend line on the weekly time frame, I was able to scale down to the daily time frame where I want to see what the structure we have here in the last 6 months. So in the last 6 months, sorry, May, June, July, August, September, in the last 5 months rather. So in the last 5 months, we witnessed this impulsive move to the downside, which evolved into a reversal pattern here, which led price to break out of the neckline at the $12,000 mark, a retest of structure. Price came to as far as the $13,700 area, where we saw price come back into the $12,000 area in the last couple of weeks. Then we saw price climb up a little into the 12,800 area, and what did we see last week? We saw a final breakdown of the $12,000 mark. So the $12,000 mark, it has been a major key level that we have been using to guide our action in the last couple of weeks now, and it's still going to be relevant going into the new week. Now, look at what happened since the beginning of the month. We saw this key level at $12,000 rejected by the buyers. That is, as soon as price came into this level in the early days of this month, we saw buyers take advantage of this move to the upside. But during the later part of last week trading session, we saw a final breakdown of that structure. And from a technical standpoint, whenever we cite a breakdown of structure like this, we always expect that we will be seeing a scenario where price comes back to do a retest of that structure to give us a trend continuation to the downside. But with the look of things, it appears that price is not having the intention of going to the upside, because if we scale down to the 4 hours time frame and look at the structure we have here on the 4 hours time frame, the first thing we observe here is this channel. We saw this impulsive move last week. We saw our price move right into the $12,000 level, and then price was caught within a consolidation phase, resulting into this descending channel here. So now that we have the scenario here, the first thing I did was to identify this key level at the 1180. It's 1000. Okay, is it 1000? Okay, I think, okay, it's 11,850. Hold on a second. So $11,850. So we have a key level here. And why do we have that key level there? We can see after price broke down that area on the 15th of September, we saw multiple rejection of that zone by the sellers to continue to give us a clue into the strength of the sellers at this point in the market. So with this information we have here, definitely we want to be looking for selling momentum going forward. Now, scaling down to the 1 hour time frame, we want to see how participants has been relating with that key level we just identified at $11,850 level to see how we intend to trade this the US tech this week. So now price started around the $11,880 area. So we had price started around here, did a consolidation phase right between the $18,880 area and the $11,800 level. So this is what we saw here. Hold on a second, let me show you. So this is what we saw at this point. We saw this move to the downside, price came back up, rejected that level again one more time, and then we saw a breakdown of the channel, a retest of that channel, and price has continued to the downside from there. So at this point, with the breakdown of this channel here at the $11,800 area, I want to be seeing this as a bearish signal. So now going into the New York session today, the first thing we want to do here is to identify that level, and to do that we want to bring out our line chart here so that we can have a specific point of connection. So we have the $11,800 mark. So we have this now, and price has broken down that level. So if you had missed that opportunity at that point, then let us see if price is going to come back to give us another chance to join the decline. So if price comes back into the $11,800 area, then we see probably multiple rejection or a reversal pattern of evolving right from that area on our lower time frame. Then we want to be joining the trend continuation to the downside with our take profit target sitting right at the support level of this descending channel. So let me extend this out a little bit. So we have something like this. So that's the first scenario we want to be looking forward to. So let's wait and see if price is going to come back into this level or probably this resistant level here. So there are two scenarios. It's either coming back into the resistant level here or the $11,800 area here, where we look for reversal pattern to join the decline. So but going into the New York session, what if price does not climb to the upside and continue to go to the downside here? Well, we have a structure here, and I think we have a temporary bullish trend line that I was able to identify here after connecting the series of higher lows here. So one thing I want us to do here is to identify a structure to guide our action from this point. And how do we do that? We bring out my line chart here, and then we identify this level. So let me give this a blue color to differentiate it from what we have earlier. So we have this place at $11,730. So we have this point here. So what I'm simply saying at this point is this: if price does not go up, remember the initial perspective is that we will be having price come back into either the $11,800 level or probably the resistance level here, where we look out for reversal patterns to join the decline to the downside. That is one scenario we're looking forward to. But if price decides not to climb up, and then we start seeing a breakdown of this $11,730 area, then a retest of structure should give us a confirmation to join the decline. So these are the two scenarios we want to be looking forward to. So we should be having our entry at a maximum point right below the hold on a second, let me see, right below this area. So if we have a breakdown retest of the structure, we should be looking at the support level here as our take profit target. And if we have price come back into the $11,800 area, we want to be looking for selling opportunities from that point. So this is how we intend to trade the US tech for this week, with a take profit target around the $11,500 area, which will be dovetailing to a minimum of, let's say, 200 pips to catch here. And let's see how price plays out in the next 24 hours. And we shall come back here tomorrow to do a follow-up detail on this one. So if you have questions, feel free to drop your inquiries in the comment section. So let's move on to the next pair. So now what we are going to be doing now is to choose random pairs. So I have a couple of pairs I want to be looking at. I have the USD Jpy, I have the CHF Jpy, and then I have the CHF, hold on a second, I have the gold, and then, so which one should we take first? The XAUUSD, the USD Jpy, or probably the CHF Jpy? Which one should we take first? Okay, so let's take gold first. Let's take gold first and let's see what's happening on the gold. Scale up to the higher time frame and let's see what we have here. So what do we have here? So if we scale up to the higher time frame here and look at the current structure we have at this point, we can see that price has been on a strong bullish momentum in the last 5 years now, I guess. And we have the major bullish trend line, the black line on your screen, and then I have a temporary bullish trend line, which is the green dotted line on your screen. So what I want to be focusing on for this week is the green dotted line. And what we noticed here is that as soon as price came back in, remember the last time price tested that bullish trend line was in 2019. We saw price climb up into the supply zone here. Then we saw this move, rejected it one more time during the month of March this year, and price continued to fall right back into that bullish trend line. So we saw the first rejection of the bullish trend line in the month of July. Price came to the $1,800 level. Then we saw multiple rejection of that bullish trend line again in the month of September. That is the early days of this month. We saw multiple rejection of that bullish trend line, and then we saw an outright breakdown of that structure during the last week trading session. So now if we zoom into the current structure we have here, we can see how the bullish trend line here that was rejected was finally broken during the course of last week trading session. So what I did was to identify this demand zone. As we can see how this area has been a buying niche for participants in this market. We saw one rejection here in the month of July. Then we saw multiple rejection in the month of August stroke the early days of this month before we finally saw the breakdown of that structure. And from a technical standpoint like this, whenever we cite a breakdown of structure like this, we expect that there is a likelihood that price will come back to do a retest of structure, which is likely going to come in the form of a retest of this, probably this bullish trend line here, or this bearish trend line at this point, or the key level at the $1,700 area, where we want to be looking out for reversal patterns to join the decline to the downside. So that is one scenario I want to be looking forward to this week. And in addition to the information we have here, I was able to identify a key level at the $1,700 level, which has been a buying niche. Like I showed you earlier, we saw how this level has been a major area for buying power. We saw it here rejected by the buyers as well. Every attempt by the sellers to push price to the downside was met with stiff resistance from the buyers, but we finally saw a breakdown of the structure during the later part of last week trading session to give us that bearish signal. So now with this current scenario we have here, like I said, from a technical standpoint, we expect that price might likely come back to do a retest of structure before we start seeing a trend continuation to the downside. So let's see what's happening on a lower time frame, after which we want to be making a decision. So on the 4 hours time frame, let's look at what we have here. So on the 4 hours time frame, what we observe here is very interesting. Since the breakdown of that demand zone here, we saw that as soon as price got into somewhere around the $1,660 area and the $1,655 area, we have witnessed multiple rejection of this level, and this made me to identify this area as a demand zone, at least for the meantime, a demand zone here. Now, with the demand zone sighted between the $1,660 area and the $1,655 area, we can see that anytime price comes into this area, we saw stiff resistance by the buyers, giving us a clue into a buying potential from that area. But price continues to reject this $1,690 area by the sellers, giving us a channel here. So we had a channel here. Hold on a second. So we had a channel here as price continues to juxtapose between the $1,690 area and the $1,655 area, anticipating a signal. Now, a signal came in the form of a breakout of that $1,690 area, giving us a clue of a possible bullish momentum that is likely going to be happening here. Then we saw price come back to do a retest of structure during the early hours of today. So we saw price come back, and in fact it went to as far as the demand zone here. So what are we going to be expecting during the New York session today? So the first thing that we might be expecting during the New York session today is the possibility of a trend continuation where price respects this demand zone one more time to push price to the upside. That is one scenario. And then the other scenario is if we have an outright breakdown of this demand zone, then this is likely going to be a signal of a bearish momentum. And if the signal happens, remember, we don't want to get too excited, as we want to wait for price action to give us further confirmation before joining the decline. So the confirmation is likely going to come in the form of a retest of this demand zone, or probably come as far as the $1,690 area, after which we look out for patterns on lower time frame to join the decline. So we have two scenarios we want to be looking forward to now. So we want to be looking forward to either price respecting this bullish trend line to push price to the upside, or we could be having a breakdown of that demand zone to send price going to the downside. So what we want to be doing now is to scale down to the 1 hour time frame, where we want to be seeing how participants are actually relating with that $1,690 level to now decide if we are going up or not. So now on the 1 hour time frame, this is what we have here. We saw our price started the week at around the $1,680 area, and then since then price has continued to find lower lows and lower highs, hereby leading back into the demand zone we identified on the higher time frame. So now with the current structure we have here, now we need to be very, very patient on this one. So we want to look out for buying opportunities as long as price continue to oscillate right above this demand zone. So what I will be looking forward to here is to see reversal patterns in the form, it could be in the form of a double bottom structure, it could be an inverse head and shoulder pattern, or a falling wedge. Whatever it is, we want to be looking for a breakout retest of structure to give us a confirmation to join the rally to the upside. So if we have a reversal pattern here that evolves into a breakout retest of structure to push price to the upside, we want to be having our take profit target in the meantime at around the $1,700 area, which is the key level we identified on the higher time frame. The reason why we are saying that is this: if we are going to be taking this move, remember this is going to be a counter trend opportunity, as we want to see how price action is going to relate to this level. Remember, we are on a very strong bearish momentum, so we want to see if price is going to reject this level to send price going to the downside. Remember, this level is the demand zone that was broken during the course of last week trading session. We saw the breakdown of that demand zone here. So we want to see if this level is going to form a retest of structure to send price going to the downside. That is one scenario we want to be looking forward to. Or we could be having an outright breakout of that key level to give us a signal of a trend continuation to the upside. So that's the scenario we're looking forward to at this point. So if price climbs, gives us a reversal pattern here and pushes to the upside, we want to be taking advantage of this counter trend trade and then look at somewhere around the $1,700 area as our take profit target, which will be dovetailing into about 3,000 pips here on the XAUSD. However, if during the New York session today we cite a breakdown of this demand zone, price breaks down this demand zone, that is taking out all the buying position here, breaks down this demand zone with an engulfing candle, then we want to be seeing this as a bearish signal. And if this happens, remember, we don't want to get too excited. We want to remain patient enough to wait for further confirmations to happen. And this is likely going to come in the form of a retest of the structure. It could be the retest of this demand zone or the $1,690 area. But what we want to be looking out for on lower time frame is the reversal patterns or structures that support a trend continuation to the downside. So this is how we intend to look at the gold for this week. So we are looking for two options, two possibilities here. A reversal pattern right above the demand zone here, which is likely going to be pushing price to the upside. That is one scenario. Or the second scenario is a possible breakdown of the demand zone here, which will give us a signal of a bearish momentum, after which we will wait for a retest of structure to give us further confirmations to join the decline. So that is how I intend to trade the XAUSD. If you have any questions, feel free to drop your inquiries in the comment section and I will try to assist in that regard. Hello Scott Benji, good morning to you. How are you doing? Trust you had a wonderful weekend. You want us to do US oil? Well, we already treated US oil earlier, but you can stay tuned in so that when we do a recap, you could grasp what we talked about on the US oil. Okay. All right. So 416, hello. 727, good morning. 610, good morning to you. So let's move on to the next pair. So the next pair we want to be looking at is let's take the CHF JPY first, and then we go on to look at the USD JPY afterwards. But the first thing we'll do here, let's go to the daily time frame. Let's see what's happening on the CHF JPY. And if we look at the current structure we have here on the daily time frame, it's very obvious that price action has been on a very strong bullish momentum. In fact, as immediately price broke right above this bullish trend line here in the month of March, we have seen price continue to find higher highs and higher lows at this point. Now, if we zoom into the structure we have in the month of June, I think May stroke the month of June, we saw how this level at the 143.700 level has been a major selling niche. So we saw our participant rejected that level a couple of times before we finally saw the breakout of that structure. And from a technical standpoint like this is the supply zone. Hold on a second. Okay, yes, that's the supply zone that was broken. So we saw the breakouts. And from a technical standpoint like this, whenever we cite a breakout of structure, we expect that price will come back and at one time in the future to retest that structure to give us a confirmation of a trend continuation. However, since the breakout happened since the beginning of the month, I think the breakout happened on the 6th of this month, we have not seen price come back to do a retest of that structure. And if we look at the structure here, we can see it also shares a confluence with that bullish trend line. So you can see we have the bullish trend line that we identify here around this point. So we're expecting that price might come back to do a retest of the structure to give us a confirmation of a trend continuation. So now, going into the New York session today, we want to look at what is happening around this area. Want to see what is happening around this area. Are we going to be seeing a reversal pattern here? And if we sight a reversal pattern around that point, then definitely we want to be getting ourselves prepared for a counter trend opportunity. So let's scale down to the 4 hours time frame so that we can see what is happening around that point. So scaling down to the 4 hours time frame, the first thing we observe here is that after following this impulsive move, we saw that this impulse leg culminated at around the 150.700 area. We saw price come within this area, and after that time we saw multiple rejection of that level before we saw price come back into the 148.700 area, and then we saw price climb up again back into that zone, but was unable to break the previous high here, giving us a lower high. Now with the structure here, what I did to identify this level as our supply zone going forward, as we can see multiple rejection of that level, price has consistently rejected that level anytime it comes within that area. In fact, it even had a lower high to give us a clue into the strength of the sellers at this point in the market. So with this structure here, you can see that we have something that looks more like a reversal pattern in the form of a double top structure. We had the impulse leg here, we had the impulsive move to the upside, did the first test of that structure, price came back into this point, did a second retest of that structure, and then we witnessed a breakdown of that structure. So with the identification of a reversal pattern here, the next thing we want to be doing is to identify a neckline, which will be our guide for the week. So we have a neckline at the 148.700 area, which is going to be serving as our key level for this week. So what we want to be doing right now is this. Since we already have a breakdown of the neckline, which is a signal giving us a confirmation of a reversal pattern, we want to wait for price to give us further confirmation in the form of a retest of the structure. So we are looking forward to price come back into the neckline area here, where we want to be looking out for patterns on lower time frame to join the decline to the downside. Now, it is important I make mention here that we might have a break above of this neckline during this week. That is, price break above this neckline and then reversal structure happen within this area. Remember, we have an impulsive move here, which we want to be using as our yardstick going forward. So we have an impulse leg here. So we want to see price retrace back, look out for the completion of this retracement move. Then we look out for structures that will give us a window to sell. So right now, to get the structure, we bring out our Fibonacci extension tool so that we can identify the golden zone area. And our golden zone area is the area between the 50% and the 78.6% of the previous impulse leg. So that's what I want to be identifying here as our sell window. So we have a sell window right around this point. So let's label this area for the sake of clarity. So we have sell window. Okay, we have a sell window here. And then let's give this a yellow color. And then we delete the retracement tool. So now let's see how we could trade this. So I'm looking forward to price coming into somewhere around the sell window here, where I'll look out for patterns on lower time frame to join the decline. So now let's go down to the 1 hour time frame and let's see how price action has been playing out since the beginning of the week. So on the 1 hour time frame, what do we observe here? We can see how price was caught within a consolidation phase after the breakdown of that key level. So we saw price caught within a consolidation phase here, giving us a clue into the indecision that has gripped this market. So one thing we want to be looking forward to is a breakout or breakdown of this channel to give us a signal of where price might be heading, probably in a long term or a short term. So now that we look at what happened in the last couple of hours, now we saw the breakout of this channel. Price broke out of this channel in the last 2 hours here. We saw the breakout of this channel, and this for me is looking more like the beginning of a retracement move back into the sell window we identify here. Well, if you are a counter trend trader, might want to be seeing this as a reversal pattern here, which resulted into the breakout of that structure. Then a retest could give us a confirmation to join a counter trend trade to the upside. But for me at this point, it is advisable that we wait for price to come back to do a retest of this 148.350 level. Let me label that area so that 148.350. So we have it right below at the bottom right hand side here. So we have 140.350 here. So we already have a breakout of that level. So if price comes back to do a retest of structure, we can take a counter trend trade with a take profit target sitting right within this point, right around the 149 and the 149.700 area as a take profit target, which might be dovetailing to about a minimum of, let's say, 60 pips to a maximum of about 120 pips here. So that is the first scenario we're looking at. So if you want to join the bullish momentum, wait for price to retest the structure to join the rally to the upside. So if price continues to the upside as projected here, and this area around the sell window is a bus stop for that we want to be looking for selling opportunities. So we want to look for selling opportunities within the sell window here. So we want to wait for price to come into this zone. So if you are taking the buy opportunity at this point, then we wait for price action to come within the sell window, where we look out for patterns on lower time frame to join the decline. So this is how we want to trade the CHF JPY this week. So the first one, we have a buy opportunity, which is going to be seen as a retracement phase of this impulse leg. We had this impulsive move to the downside here. Hold on a second, let me show you. So we had this impulsive move to the downside. So I want to be seeing this as a retracement back into the sell window here, where we want to be looking out for patterns that will give us a signal of a trend continuation to the downside. So if you have any questions at this point, feel free to drop it in the comment section, and I will try to check the comment section from time to time to see if I can be of help. Okay. Okay, so let's move on to the next pair. So the next pair we should be looking at now is the USD Jpy. So what's happening on the USD Jpy? Let's go to the daily time frame and let's see what we have here. So on the daily time frame, price has been on a strong bullish momentum, and this is evident after connecting the series of higher lows to give us this resultant bullish trend line. And you can see price has consistently respected that bullish trend line since the second quarter of this year. We saw price respecting that bullish trend line, and we've been monitoring this USD JPY for quite a while now. Something interesting later happened in the month of July/August. We saw this bearish move right into this bullish trend line here, evolving into a double bottom structure, which from a technical standpoint is a strong reversal pattern. And since the breakout of the neckline at the 135 Japanese yen level in the month of August, we have seen price climb to as far as the 145 Japanese yen area. And one thing we will observe here is that since price broke above that neckline here, we have not seen price come back to do a retest of the structure to give us a confirmation to join the rally on a long-term perspective. So I've been expecting that we might be looking forward to price coming back into this bullish trend line to give us that confirmation of a trend continuation, but that has not happened since the month of August. But if we scale down to the 4 hours time frame, we can see that since that breakout of structure happened, price has consistently respected this bullish trend line. Let me show you. Price has consistently respected this bullish trend line. as we can see, leading into the 145 Japanese yen area, and we have been witnessing multiple rejection of this level at this point. But something caught my attention here. Looking at the 4 hours time frame here, a multiple rejection of this 145 area called my attention, because as you can see, we saw the first rejection here in the first week of this month. We saw the first rejection here, and then we saw the second rejection here during the course of last week trading session to give me a clue into the strength of the sellers at this point in the market, hereby resulting into something that looks more like a double top structure, but we can't say that is until we see a breakdown of the neckline to confirm that. Now, with the structure we have here, we have a supply zone. We had multiple rejection of this level. We have a bullish trend line as well. The next thing I did was to identify a key level that will be guiding our action during this week. And when I zoom into the structure here, I was able to identify a key level right around the 142.500 area. And as you can see how this level has been a major determinant of price action in the past, you can see we have a rejection here. We have an indecision right within that level. Then we saw multiple rejection of this level during the later part of last week's trading session as buyers continue to resist any attempt by the sellers to push price to the downside from this area. So because of this, I was able to identify this key level here, and the identification of this multiple rejection of this level, I'm tending towards a bearish momentum happening this week. But how do I intend to trade this? How do I intend to take that sell opportunity on this USD Jpy? Well, what I'll be saying here is patience is required at this point, as we want to wait for a signal to happen. And the signal will only happen if we sight a breakdown of this neckline at the 142.500 area, which also shares a confluence with the bullish trend line that has been guiding price action since last month. So we have seen this bullish trend line guide action to the upside since last month, and we have a neckline around the 142.500 area. So what I want to see is a breakdown of the structure to give me a signal that a bearish momentum is imminent. So if a breakdown happens, remember, we don't want to get too excited when we sight such a signal like this. We want to wait for price action to give us that confirmation, which is likely going to come in the form of a retest of the 142.500 area, which is the previous demand zone here, and probably retest that bullish trend line or the bearish trend line here. As you can see, we have a confluence already. We have a confluence between the bullish trend line and that bearish trend line here, where we want to be looking out for patterns on lower time frame to join the decline to the downside. So this is how we want to trade the USD Jpy this week. So we need to be very patient to see if price will continue to the downside by breaking that level. However, if price does not come back to the downside, that is, price does not break down that key level, that neckline area and the bullish trend line, and we continue to see price roll up to the upside, then we want to be waiting for a signal to happen in the form of a breakout of this bearish trend line. So if we see an outright breakout of that bearish trend line, this is likely going to be a signal of a short-term bullish momentum. I say short-term. The reason why I've said short-term is simply because of the supply zone here, because if we are going to be buying this pair at this point, that is, price breaks out, we wait for confirmation to happen in the form of a retest of structure and we buy. We want to be looking at this area as our take profit targets at the meantime, as we want to see how price is going to relate with the supply zone again. Remember, we have a structure here as price has consistently rejected our supply zone. We saw the second rejection, and then we might see a rejection here to push price to the downside, or we could be having a breakout retest of that structure to give us a confirmation of a trend continuation to the upside. So this is how we want to be trading this week. So let's see how price action plays out. So now that we've identified this on the 4 hours time frame, let's scale down to the 1 hour time frame where we want to have precise point of entry, possible point of entries. So scaling down to the 1 hour time frame, what do we have here? We can see since the beginning of the week, price has consistently find higher highs at this point, leading to a breakout of that bearish trend line here. So this breakout is not yet significant for me anyways. So I still want to see an outright breakout to happen to give me that signal that a bullish momentum is happening here. Then we wait for a retest to join the rally to the upside. That is one scenario we're looking at. But if price continues to rally to the downside here, like I told you, I want to see an outright breakdown of this demand zone. That is, price takes out all the buying position here, breaks down this neckline, then I look out for structures to join the decline on lower time frame. Now the question you will be asking now is, okay, are we going to be waiting for price to go all the way right into this point before we could be taking any trade on this one? Well, it's a very valid question if you are thinking that. But one thing I also want to share with you here is to notice the structure around the 142.500 area and the 142.900 area, and what is happening around that area. We can see since price rejected that supply zone here, resulting into this impulsive move to the downside, we saw as soon as price got into the 142.500 area, we have been witnessing multiple rejection of this level by the buyers. So every attempt by the sellers to push price to the downside was met with stiff resistance by the buyers to push price to the upside. So we don't want to be selling at this point here because of the strength of the buyers at this juncture at around the 142.500 area. So what I want to be seeing is an outright breakout of that structure to give us that signal we are looking forward to for selling momentum. So if I see a breakdown of that level, then I want to be seeing that as a signal. Then a retest of structure, it could be a retest of this neckline here or the retest of this bullish trend line. We will look out for patterns on lower time frame to join the decline. So this is the only way I want to be selling the USD JPY for this week. So Votuam is asking down 140. Well, it's possible we might be seeing price go to as far as 140. But one thing I'm looking at on a long-term perspective is this: if we scale up to the daily time frame here, and we look at the structure we have, we can see that we have this bullish trend line here, and we also have a key level of the neckline at 135 Japanese yen. Remember, I showed you here on the daily time frame, we had this move to the downside, resulting into a double bottom structure, which is a very strong reversal pattern sitting right above the bullish trend line. We saw the breakout of the neckline here, and since the breakout happened, we've not seen price come back to do a retest of structure. So I'm still waiting for that move to happen, that is the retest of structure to happen, and let's see if it's going to happen this week. That is, if we see a breakdown of that bullish trend line we identified on the 4 hours time frame, then we might be looking at our take profit target somewhere around the neckline area here or the bullish trend line, where we want to be looking forward to a possible bullish trend continuation to the upside. So that is what we'll be looking forward to for this week. So I hope that's clear. Okay. So at this point, I would think it's at this juncture we call it a day, as we are able to treat how many pairs that is, 1 2 3 4 and 5. So let's quickly do a recap of what we have talked about, especially for those who did not start the session with us, so that they can also have a clue into what our expectations are this week. So the first pair we deliberated on is the US oil, and on the US oil, I told you I already took a trade on the US oil. And one thing I said here is, for those who had missed this move right from this point here, we want to be looking forward to if the market is going to give us a second chance. Remember, price was caught within this channel, and we saw the breakdown of this channel here. So we want to see if market is going to give us a second chance, which is likely going to come in the form of a retest of the structure. So if price comes back into this area at the $84 or the $85 area, or probably this bullish trend line here, then we want to look out for structures on lower time frame to join the decline. So like I said, if we join the decline, we have our take profit target right between the $78 area and the $80 area, which is the support level of the descending channel we identified on the 4 hours time frame. So this is what we want to be looking at for the meantime, and we should be having this level at the 85 dollar area as our yardstick for selling momentum for this week. So anywhere right below this level should be good for us to sell the US oil. However, if anything happens, that we see price climb right back above that bullish trend line, breaking above this channel here, then we could be looking forward to a bullish momentum after a retest of structure happens. So let's see how this is going to play out. I told you I'm already in profit here, and definitely after the end of the session I'm going to be moving my stop loss to break even to protect my position against any sudden move that it could likely happen. So that's how we want to be trading this. So we moved on to talk about the US tech, and on the US tech we have a couple of scenarios that we are looking at. And what we identified here on we identify a structure here on the 1 hour time frame, and that is the descending channel here. After witnessing this impulsive move to the downside last week, we saw our price has been caught within a descending channel, and you can see this is evident here. So I'm thinking that that descending channel is going to be respected this week. However, to guide our action against the New York session today, one thing we did here is to identify what has been happening since the beginning of the week. So what did we see here? We saw how price started the week at the $11,850 area, and then we saw this move to the downside. Price came back up here, then we saw the breakout of that $11,800 area. So we had a channel between the 11,850 and 11,800, which was broken to the downside, and price got to as far as the $11,730 area. So now we have a breakdown of structure here, and whenever we cite a breakdown of structure like this, we expect that price is likely going to come back, do a retest of the structure to give us a confirmation of a trend continuation. So now we have two structures we want to be looking at for the retest of structure. So if you had missed this move right from this point, then I'll request that we remain patient to see if price is going to come back into the structure to retest it. So we have a structure here at the $11,800 area, and we also have a structure at the 11,850 area, which also shares a confluence with the resistance level of the descending channel. So we want to see what's going to happen around this area. So if we cite a reversal pattern there, then we want to be joining the decline from that point. And if it's the rejection of this $11,800 area that is right below this level, and we cite structures on lower time that supports a trend continuation, we want to be selling from that point. However, if price does not go as far as the 11,800 area or the 11,850 area, that is, price does not climb up, and we cite a breakdown of this $11,730 level, which has been a support level. We can see how this area has been a buying niche for participants in this market during the course of last week's trading session. So if we have a breakdown of this level, then this is likely going to be a signal of a bearish momentum. Remember, we are not getting too excited when we cite such a signal. We want to wait for price to give us a confirmation, which is likely going to come in the form of a retest of this $11,730 area, or this bullish trend line here, where we look out for patterns to join the decline. So in the meantime, we have our take profit target right around the 11,500 area, which is the support level of the descending channel here. So let's see how price plays out during the New York session today, and definitely we will be coming back here tomorrow to do a follow-up detail in that regard. So I'll require you be on standby to take advantage of this opportunity when it finally happens. Like I used to say, you might want to munch my screen so that you can use it as a reference point when you're about making your decision. So let's move on. We went on to talk about the XAUS, that is the gold, and on the gold we had a structure here. We are since the beginning of the week, price has continued to found lower lows and lower highs. As we have seen, price has come back into the demand zone which we identify here. So going into the New York session today, I had two scenarios which I shared with you. And the first scenario is the possibility of price respecting that demand zone one more time, where we have structures that evolves into a reversal pattern, breakout or retest of structure to join the rally to the upside. And if we are joining the rally to the upside from this point, I told you we should have our take profit target right around the $1,700 area. And the reason why that is simply because of the structure we identified on the higher time frame. Remember, we had this demand zone here, which was broken during the course of last week trading session. Here we saw the breakdown of that structure. So there is a likelihood that price will want to come back to do a retest of the structure before we start seeing a trend continuation to the downside. So that is why I'm looking at take profit target at around the $1,700 area. So there are two things that could happen there. We could have a breakdown from there, or we could have a breakout and price continue to the upside at that point. So that is one scenario we're looking at. And this other scenario is this. Considering the long-term bearish momentum we have here, that is, price has been bearish in the last 4 to 5 months now. And to sell the gold this week, the only thing we should be looking forward to sell the gold is the breakdown of this demand zone. Remember, this demand zone has been rejecting any selling potential opportunity here. So what we want to see is an outright breakdown of that demand zone. That is, we see a bearish engulfing candle taking us right out of those positions here. Then we look out for retest of structure. It's going to be the retest of this demand zone or the retest of the $1,690 area, where we look out for patterns on lower time frame to join the decline. So that is that on the XAU USD. Then we went on to talk about the USD Jpy, where we actually identified a reversal pattern on the higher time frame as price consistently rejected the 145 Japanese yen level. We saw the first rejection here in the first week of September. We saw the second rejection here during the course of last week trading session, and which led into price coming down into the bullish trend line we have here. So there are two things we want to look at here. The first thing is price going to respect that bullish trend line one more time in such a way that we have a trend continuation to the upside, or are we going to be having a breakdown of that bullish trend line to send price crashing to the downside? So in order to make this perspective clear enough, we zoomed in and we identified a structure that we want to be using to guide our action going forward. So we have the neckline at the 142.500 area, where I said to sell the USD JPY, we want to see price break down that demand zone here, break down the 142.500 area, after which a retest of structure will give us a confirmation to join the decline. Now, if price does not break down that 142.500 area and price continues to the upside, we want to see the breakout of this resistance level, this bearish trend line here. We want to see a breakout of the structure, which appears to have happened, but I still want to see significant confirmation, please. So we want to see price break out this level significantly well. Then we wait for a confirmation to happen, which will likely come in the form of a retest of this structure, where we look out for patterns on lower time frame to join the rally to the upside. So this is how we want to trade the USD JPY. So now we closed the day with the CHF JPY. That was the last pair we treated, and we had two scenarios we could take advantage of. Now on the CHF JPY, we have a similar scenario with what we have on the USD JPY. We saw reversal pattern, like in the form of a double bottom structure. We saw price touch the 150.700 area. We saw the first touch, price came back into the neckline at the 148.700 area. We saw a lower high resulting into a double top structure. Now we saw the breakdown of the neckline, and let me zoom in so that you can see what I'm talking about here. So we saw the breakdown of this neckline around this point. We saw the breakdown here during last week trading session, and my expectation this week is that price, after seeing the multiple rejection of this level here and then a breakout of that structure, I want to be seeing this as a move, as a retracement move back into our golden zone area, which is between the 50 and the 78.6% of the previous impulse leg we have here. So this is, we have a counter trend. trade opportunity that's likely going to be happening here, since we already have a breakout of this channel. So if you're a counter trend trader or a short-term trader, you can actually take advantage of a retest of this level and take advantage of that move to the upside here. But mind you, we have a bearish momentum in the last 2 weeks on this pair. So as soon as price move in your direction, you want to move your stop loss to protect your position against any sudden drop. Now, to sell the CHF JPY, you could either wait for price to come to the area within our sell window here, where we look out for patterns on lower time frame that supports a trend continuation to the downside, or if we cite multiple rejection of the key level we identified here at the 148.700 area. So if we have multiple rejection of this area, then we might be seeing this as a clue into the strength of the sellers, and we want to be taking advantage of that selling momentum at the rejection of that level. So this is what we want to be looking forward to this week. So on this note, I want to call it a day, and I want to wish you all best of luck during the New York session today. So I hope to see you guys tomorrow, same time, 10 a.m. UTC, 11 a.m. West African time, as we come begin to gather here and look at the financial market and prepare ourselves against the New York session tomorrow. So thank you very much for being around. I really appreciate every moment I had with you guys, and hope to see you tomorrow. Bye bye.